For 40 days on God, Family, and Guns, we'll be focusing on God. We have a series on spiritual warfare, the end of times, the prophecy of Daniel, and the prophecy of Malachi. If you want to see our gun-related or Second Amendment-related content, you can see that on Patreon or the History of Weapons. Those links are below. The last 9 days has been quite a ride. Coming out to Wyoming and trying to understand what it is God has called us out here for was really a daunting thing. Now, I know that I was called out here because I was asked to be a van driver of a group of 24 teenagers and a few adults who came out to Wyoming to literally love on people, to be the hands and feet of Jesus Christ, to feed the hungry, clothe the naked, take care of the widows and the orphans. And so I knew that was why I was here. And the people that called me, I hadn't heard from them in over 5 years. And right when I was praying to God on where do I go, they get this call, and I just jumped on it. Well, I set aside a couple days to meet with you all. And most of you could not make it, and I totally get it. You know, many of you are in other countries or other parts of this country. Many of you have said you're caregivers for many of your family members, or you yourself are receiving care. I mean, there's a lot of reasons why people didn't make it out here, and that is absolutely okay. But I'm gonna be real honest, leading up to it, I had a good amount of just concern and fear, really not knowing what it was that I was doing out here. And as I was serving with these young men and women out here in Wyoming, we're here in Casper, Wyoming right now. We've been sleeping in the basement of this church, about 27 of us. It's been a rough ride. And here in Casper, they had their annual parade. I guess they didn't have one last year, so they said it was going to be the biggest one ever. We engaged people. There was over 30 of us engaging people, a little under 30 of us, I apologize, engaging people, literally out, meeting people and praying for them and picking up their trash and helping them get things to their cars. And we just spent this whole time really serving, and it's really been kind of a beautiful thing. But as far as meeting with the remnant, I didn't know what that looked like. And so when I left them, I went to Kurt Gowdy State Park and picked out a spot. Kurt Gowdy, they just opened up the doors for us. They gave us the amphitheater for free. And I just called a week ago and asked if we can come there and meet a few people and do some baptisms. I didn't know they had an amphitheater, to be quite honest. And when I got out there, they just said, we've reserved this for you, and we reserved the best spot for baptisms. Myself and Brother Matthew, who I met the day before, were able to get out and kind of pick out what that beautiful spot was for baptisms. And but the day of meeting everybody, the amphitheater is a natural rock formed amphitheater that then had an amphitheater built into it. And I was there in the morning praying about what was happening, and I just kind of paused for a second, and I looked up to the sky and I said, God, what am I doing here? And immediately the wind started blowing, and it started blowing the pages of my Bible, and then it stopped, and I knew God was telling me, so that's not a normal thing. I mean, I know pages blow in the wind, but not right when you ask the question, God, what am I doing here? And then the pages start blowing. And he blew them to the page of Matthew 22, and right as I wrote down, I wanted to keep note of it, because right then, one of the first guys joining us, Brother Amos, comes walking up over those rocks. And I just want to start off by saying it was such an honor to meet those guys and those men and women, because it's almost like having a lot of brothers and sisters in Christ, but I've never met, and to finally put a face with things and shake some hands and meet people was what it was about. And it wasn't until I got home that I finally went and said, well, what was Matthew 22? And I realized this is exactly what we're doing here. And this is the parable of the wedding feast. I'm just going to read it. And Jesus answered and spoke to them again by parable and said, the kingdom of heaven is like a certain king who arranged a marriage for his son. and sent out his servants to call those who were invited to the wedding, and they were not willing to come. And that's what we're doing here. We have been sent out by our Father to invite people to the wedding feast. It is time. The feast is coming. The feast is upon us. Every day that the sun rises, we're just getting one day closer to that. And it goes on. Again, he sent out other servants, saying, tell those who are invited, see, I have prepared my dinner, my oxen, fatted cattle are killed, and all things are ready. Come to the wedding. But they made light of it and went their ways, one to his own farm, another to his business. This is what the world is doing. They're ignoring the signs. They're ignoring myself and many others, going out and saying, it is coming. The wedding is coming. The groom is coming for his bride. It's time. And they're just saying, well, yeah, I hear you, but I got stuff to do. But I did the Sunday show, so I'm good. But I got stuff. I'm busy doing things. And I'll go on. 6. And the rest seized his servants, treated them spitefully, and killed them. When the king heard about it, he was furious, and he sent out his armies, destroyed those murderers, and burned up their cities. He's talking about tribulation right there. Then he said to his servants, the wedding is ready, but those who were invited were not worthy. There's a point where you will be considered unworthy. And you just have to know that. And these are from the lips of Jesus Christ, not my own. Then he said to his servants, the wedding is ready, but those who were invited were not worthy. Therefore, go into the highways, and as many as you find, invite to the wedding. So those servants went out into the highways and gathered together all whom they found, both bad and good, and the wedding hall was filled with guests. When the king came in to see the guests, he saw a man there who did not have on a wedding garment. So he said to him, friend, how did you come in here without a wedding garment? And he was speechless. What he's talking about is, it's the judgment day is what he's talking about. It's not about our clothing that we're wearing. It's about revelation, putting on a white robe, being cleansed by the blood of the Lamb and having white. That's our garments. And there'll be people trying to get in that won't have those garments on. Then the king said to the servants, bind him hand and foot, take him away, and cast him into outer darkness. There will be weeping and gnashing of teeth, for many are called, but few are chosen. That's what it's all about. That's what we're doing here. So after meeting them, we did some baptisms. We had 4 hours of talking and getting to know them and really trying to figure out what it is we're doing. And in the end, what I believe is that we became a church that day. There was about 25 men and women there, and we became a church. We became I don't even want to use the word church. We became the remnant that day because we knew each other, and we became a part of things. And that's the part of this wedding feast that so many people are struggling with, is they don't want to go into those empty walls of churches that are just putting on the Sunday show, but they're not clothing the hungry or clothing the naked, feeding the hungry, taking care of the widows and orphans, visiting the prisoners, going to the hospitals. The separation of the sheep and goats is what I'm talking about. They know that is important, and they want to be a part of that, but they don't see it anywhere. And thousands of you around the world are seeing the exact same thing because you've shared that with me. So after seeing them and meeting with them, and we baptized 2 of our brothers, and it was in the Kurt Gowdy Park with this beautiful, it was just such a wonderful moment to see in time, and we became the remnant in that moment. And you all, we prayed for you as well, by the way. We broke them into groups and we specifically prayed for you, those of you who could not be there. But meeting them was different, and I think what is the next step is I'm going to travel the country. That what took place in Wyoming, God showed me that this is how it's got to go down. And now myself and those 24 men and women, we have this different relationship. We're brothers and sisters in Christ in a more intimate way. And that has to take place. So here, I don't know when the timing is. I'm going to pray about it. I'm going to pray about locations, but I think it has to be all over the country. Everybody, we are all part of the remnant, and God has scattered us because there's maybe, if you have a town of 10,000 people, there's maybe 1 or 2 of you that are like you. You're just feeling alone, almost like everybody's in a fog, and you just want to shake them and say, don't you see what's happening here? But they don't. They believe in a pre-tribulation rapture. They're just going to go do the Sunday show a few times a year, throw $10 in the plate, go home, watch March Madness, and just get raptured up. Avoid any sort of hardship or trouble or tribulation, and Jesus is going to put a crown of glory on their head and say, good job, faithful servant. That's not how it's going to go down. Read Matthew 25. It's the separation of the sheep and the goats is how it's going to go down, and you are going to be, it's going to be a hard day for a lot of Christians on Judgment Day, thinking that because that John 3:16 was preached to them because they spoke some words when they were younger, that's all they have to do. But that word believeth in me, I want to remind you, Satan believes in Jesus Christ. He is not going to heaven. Believing is not the key. Abiding in him is the key. That's a huge difference. And that word, believeth, that English word, keep in mind, this wasn't written in English, this was written in Greek, and that word means to abide, to entrust, to be a part of that thing. And if you're not engaging people, loving on people, feeding the hungry, clothing the naked, taking care of the widows and the orphans, just like the groom said, then you're going to be put on his left hand. You're going to be a goat, and it's going to be a hard day for a lot of Christians. Most Christians would be my guess, and that's what this is all about. So I'm going to keep you all in the loop. I'm going to put it on Instagram, probably where we're going, what dates. Please, I'm going to try to get as close to as many as you, because it's about meeting up. It's about becoming the remnant. It's about engaging, knowing each other, having a. It's different when it's online, and it's something I kind of spoke about whenever they were there. When you see somebody online and you meet them in person, it's different. Sometimes it's a disappointment, but sometimes everything changes. And for me, everything changes. So, again, I have so much to say about this trip. I miss my home. We're heading out this morning. It's Saturday. This is going to post on Sunday, so by Sunday evening I'll be home. But it's been. I just want to share one last thing, and this is the piece was that at this church we were giving away food. Every week they have boxes of food, and we were getting food from Food for Thought and the food authorities here in Wyoming, and then boxing it up and literally handing it to the hungry, and just massive lines of cars coming through. And there was a moment where a guy recognized me, and he smiled. He's like, "Oh, I love your show. I'm a big fan of your show." And I don't know quite how to describe what that's like when you're literally preaching for years to be the hands and feet of Jesus Christ, to feed the hungry, and to see somebody that you've been preaching that to, and you're literally handing them food. And I'm in dirty, wrinkled clothes. I'm in flip-flops. I haven't showered. And I'm literally handing him food, serving him, and that's what it's all about. And I shared with them, I apologize for being all teared up here, but there's two things that always make me cry. It's when I think about my kids and I worry about them, or I worry about their future, and when I think about the love of God, and we're showing the love of God brings me to tears. And even as people shared their stories when they got to the part about the love of God in their life, they got teary-eyed. So they get it. You get it. If you have God in your heart, you totally get it. But I don't know if I could ever really put that into words. And maybe it'll take a month or two before I can finally kind of put that into words on what that was like to literally be serving the hungry when somebody recognized me. Not being a hypocrite, not being that guy that's preaching it on Sunday but going home and living in my posh house and doing nothing for anybody. That's not what this is about. What this is about is the separation of the sheep and the goats, and we are to go out and invite people to that wedding feast. But it's not just, hey, believeth in him and you have everlasting life. No, it's about being the remnant in Jesus Christ and feeding the hungry, clothing the naked, taking care of the widows and the orphans, visiting the prisoners and the sick. If you're not doing that, read Matthew 25. He sends you into everlasting punishment if you're not doing that. It's not that complicated. I dare to say 95% of Christians are going to be goats because they were false teaching for centuries. centuries of false teaching. People going on mission trips all over the world saying, all you got to do is say some words and you're okay, and you said them, you're good, now it's going to the next village. That's what we've been doing for centuries. That is satanic, is what that is. It's false teaching. How many churches are preaching Matthew 25? And I'm sorry if this is offending you, but you know what? I don't really care, because in the end, I want to see you at the wedding feast. And if offending you is what gets you there, amen to that one. So, love to hear your thoughts on all this. Again, when I can get home and I can put my thoughts down a little better, it's just I'm overwhelmed with the things that are taking place over the last 9 days. And I just need to kind of pause and process. But there you go. If you have any thoughts on it, put it in the comments below. If you like this video, click like and subscribe. If you feel called to support this channel to Patreon, that link is also below. The most important part of this channel, we take prayer requests, and never hesitate to send that in. Thank you for watching this episode of God, Family, and Guns. And as always, love God, love your family, and love guns.